This session, the justification behind this was, you look at the job market at the moment. It's a very difficult place. I mean, we're all very lucky. A lot of people in this room are probably very lucky, got very good jobs in travel. But there's a generation coming through where unemployment is very, very high. People coming out of university. Finding it very, very difficult to find work. So that's on the one side of this. But if you look on the other side, you look at social media networks, how much they are growing. The huge growth of things like Facebook, Google+. And it makes you think, well, there has to be jobs in that. And, increasingly I've seen, having looked at this and reported about this sector for some time, you do see more and more jobs appearing, social media manager, community manager, all those sort of things. They're starting to appear much more now in the job ads. And if you're on LinkedIn, for example, I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but you get those jobs coming up all the time now that you never used to see before. And so this session is really to talk about where those opportunities are coming from now, and what sort of skills you need to actually do those jobs. So if you're a student coming through or catering to that market, what do you need to know? Do you need to know how to shoot a video? Do you need to know how to write properly? That's what this is all about. And we have two experts on this. We have Jason Gill, who's the managing director of the Student Room, which is a big student community. 1 million students on there. They're talking about this thing all the time, talking about where they're going to get work. And so we've invited him to get the sort of student mentality to this. He's also previously worked for jobsite.co.uk, so very well qualified to talk about this, and also has a travel angle, having worked for Eurostar and Sabre Holdings. Joining him is Joanna Matloka, who's new media strategist at the digital agency 77 agency, and as well as speaking to us about the the agency outlook and what their clients are looking for in terms of skills. Joanna has also gone through Bournemouth University and through their School of e-tourism, and so she's going to talk a little bit about that sort of experience, and then about finding a job in the industry, and what new recruits to her company go through before they're actually allowed any contact with the real world. And I think it's really interesting. So I think it's really fascinating. So I don't know if we could start with Jason, maybe just talking a little bit about what students are actually talking about.
What are they talking about? Well, hi everybody. Can you hear me? Cool. It's great to be here. As Mark said, I used to work in the travel industry up until about 4 months ago when I joined the Student Room. Absolutely love travel, and I think as I was thinking about today, I was thinking about how students might find their way into the travel marketplace, because it is a great place to work, and conversely the travel market continuously talks about how to attract talent, and I feel that there's a real opportunity here. I think how many people are actually studying at the moment? Do we have many? Oh, great, that's cool. So we can talk about it from both angles. I think from a student's perspective, as people talk about where there might be opportunities in travel, I think there's an opportunity to create demand. So actually an opportunity for students looking into the travel industry to actually create opportunities themselves. And to flip that to a travel company for a moment, I think if you think about it this way, what students bring to the table is a really fresh eye, a fresh perspective on the way that you're doing things. So having just joined the Student Room fairly recently, even though we're a social media company, one of the first things that I did was actually ask somebody to come into the company and focus purely on social media. So we recruited a student who just qualified, and gave him the remit to come in and say, look at all of our social media activity, be as brutally honest as you possibly can be. Tell us how we're using Facebook. We feel like we had a good Facebook strategy, we had a good social media strategy generally, but I asked somebody that came in and just gave them a full-time remit and said, look at Facebook, look at Twitter, look at the way in which we're embracing Google+, and be brutally honest. And they have been, and it's been probably, in all of the years that I've been working across all of those different companies, probably one of the best hires I've ever made. So from a student's perspective, if you're technical savvy, if you've got a really good feel for social, Most people have, think about how many people are now online. If you've got a good feel for mobile, if you're comfortable with video, get critical. Go and look at those large brands and start to get feedback, collate feedback, and then put yourself out there and actually deliver that feedback to the company, because I actually think there's an opportunity to create demand there. And conversely, if you're a travel company, I think it's a really strong idea. And I know that there are companies out there that have dedicated social media teams, but there are a lot that don't. Social media is still a shared responsibility a lot of the time, or it's kind of bundled into other parts of your remit, but it really needs full-time attention. So create roles for graduates to come into your organisation, perhaps even create roles where they can roam from one area to the other. So they start with social media and then move into other areas. It's like a modern internship. But I just think, having seen the results, and we're a social company, so we should be doing things reasonably well anyway, we've quadrupled, if not more so, and improved on what we're doing from a social perspective. And as Kevin was just saying in the last session, for those that you were here, the value of having strong followership online, so Facebook followers on a company page, don't underestimate the value of that. And I know Joanne will talk about how you can actually do that, but the value of an online following through social is absolutely immense, and critical for company health moving forward. Just to quickly touch on some skill sets, I think there are a few areas that I would say from a student's perspective coming into the marketplace they should really be focusing on promoting. The tech and social savvy side, obviously that's key. Being really confident with mobile and video is a very key area for travel companies to focus on moving forward. The ability to write well and create really compelling content is also key in a social environment, in order to build up the following. So content is king. And community. Social media is all about the development of communities. With companies, travel companies, or any types of companies, you have a customer base, and therefore some form of community. What social media does is it galvanizes those communities. It really gives you the opportunity to further engage your customer community. And I think that students coming into the marketplace have the ability to be able to add value to that process and to help you engage those communities. And as I said before, I think it's a full-time job, and I think that you could really begin to see some real ROI by investing headcount just on doing that. So content and communities are going to be key. And entrepreneurial spirit and innovation, especially for these larger organizations. Having come from a larger organization, there's a huge amount of entrepreneurial spirit that runs through student communities generally. Lots of ideas, lots of fresh thinking. The idea of bringing that fresh thinking into your organization is certainly worth a thought as well. And it's something that we're already starting to see benefit from, having done it recently. So that's my 2 pence.
Thanks, Jason. Now, Joanna, I just wonder if you can just talk to me about, coming through Bournemouth University. It's, one of the leading tourism universities, and it's particularly strong in the digital and social world, thanks to our friend Professor Dimitrios Bouhalis.
Who's not here today.
Sadly not here. But he's always been an advocate of social media, and everyone who comes through that system, I think, is enthused about it. And they've gone on, lots of people have gone on to great jobs, including Joanna. So if you could just talk about how you came through that and how you found a job afterwards.
Can everybody hear me well? No? Not at all? Or?
Are you okay?
Yeah. Closer. Yeah, this is okay, perfect. Yes, as Mark said, I graduated from Bournemouth University about 3 years ago, doing masters in tourism, marketing and management. I've always been interested in internet, everything going on online, always very fascinated, but really just during the second half of my course, when I focused on e-tourism bit, I realized this is exactly what I have to do. The course is amazing. You really understand travel from the online marketing perspective, from all the different angles, from different verticals, from travelers' perspective, and the team is really strong. The Professor Bouhalis that Mark mentioned, he is very motivating and very enthusiastic. I just spoke to the Bournemouth Uni guys. They are downstairs as well, and now it's a specific e-tourism master's course, and they're fully booked until 2014. So it is it is a very good course. I graduated as a top student. I was very proud of myself, and I was sure that I'll just find a job like that because it's a great school. I had great grades, and unfortunately, it took me about 6 months, if not more, because everywhere I was applying, I was hearing I have no experience whatsoever. So unfortunately, internship, any kind of work experience is what is absolutely necessary to get any kind of job. And I very much agree with what Jason said. Graduates who are passionate about online media, about social media, who understand the brand, get the brand, they can do better job than somebody who's been in the industry for a long time but doesn't have the social media passion, because you need to talk to people in a certain way. You need to know how to communicate with the users and how to engage them. And if you can't do that, there is no point to have your Facebook page. But this is something that you cannot afford today. You need the Facebook followers, you need the Twitter, you need social media presence. But anyway, moving on to my progress after graduation, I've done an internship with 101 Holidays with Mark Hodson that Kevin mentioned. It was very short, 2 months internship working on SEO links. And then I found 77 Academy, which is division of my agency. And it's a very interesting program. It's 10 weeks course that is free. And basically we take on promising graduates or anybody who wants to change their career path and is passionate about online media, not purely social, but online media. So during the 10 weeks, you spend, you're taught also working with account managers on the actual campaigns. You're taught everything from PPC to social media to affiliation, any elements that are involved in online marketing and are required. Also, we do corporate trainings, which is actually very funny because talking about graduates being more skilled than some very experienced marketeers, we provide corporate trainings for big brands. And I will not drop names here, but this year only, I think it was 2 or 3 very strong brands that we trained for 2 days, the whole marketing department, in social media in particular. Never in any other elements of online media, social media, yes, because especially companies who are created in pre-social media era, people who run the marketing, they run it in more traditional way. They need to understand, they want to understand, they know they need social media, but they really don't know how to integrate it into their overall marketing plan and how to implement it as a second place. So that's why, exactly as Jason said, if you are a graduate and you have ideas, you may really surprise people who have many years in marketing, many years of experience. So after the academy, I moved on to 77 agency. We are agency covering pretty much 360 degrees of online marketing, but recently, over the last few years, focusing on social and especially Facebook. We were selected as one of 12 companies in the world as a strategic preferred marketing developer of Facebook, so this is a big accomplishment. And after 2 years of running campaigns, over the last few months, I've been working on client relationship and helping clients with strategy. So that gives me really strong overview because I work with all the teams internally and most of our clients, helping them to make the most of what's happening with online, which is moving on so quickly that not everybody knows about the latest opportunities. So looking from that perspective, I see there's a huge increase in demand for content management, community management, as well as kind of strategic approach to social media, understanding how to integrate it with the rest of the online marketing, how to get the bottom line, which is obviously which Mark will be covering tomorrow during the tomorrow session. I know there's a lot of topics related to that, but this is the bottom line. So I think the 2 biggest needs for jobs in social media at the moment, one is having somebody who understands online marketing and knows how to integrate social aspects into it. And social media is not standalone. It has to be integrated with PR, with offline, with online, everything else. And then it's more than just tweeting and posting on Facebook. This is integration of social plugins into your website. This is building applications. This is going crazy with RFID, like Kevin mentioned before. Social technology can be pushed to unlimited levels. Second thing, and I think the second role, community management, is something that is very much related to personality. You need a strong personality of being people's person, talking to people, being of course internet savvy, but still you need to like chatting to people, you need to know how to represent the brand, and you need to make the Facebook or Twitter page personal. You're the person representing the brand in front of all the fans. So it's a very responsible job. Even though I do really believe, like Jason said, you don't necessarily need a very strong marketing experience for that specific role. Actually, some personality aspects are much more valuable in this case.
And from your experience with the 77 Academy, what one thing would you say that you've learned in that time, your 10 weeks, that has proven so useful for you in your actual job working with clients?
Well, you know, I think the most exciting moment was when I was able to touch actual campaign for the first time. That was incredible, because after so many years of studying and knowing all the theory, or at least thinking that I know all the theory, I actually got an AdWords campaign to manage on Google. And it's incredible because you're playing with, you're managing actual campaign. You're making it real, uploading the ads. So I think this moment of taking responsibility for my clients' budgets, that was the strongest thing. Dealing with the clients as well, because this is something that as a graduate I didn't know. I didn't know how you speak to the clients. You know, I was a student graduate. I wasn't a professional yet. So during those 10 weeks, you get to experience all those real life moments, apart from learning the online marketing theory, which is crucial, of course, but it's actually real job for a first time in a way.
And Jason, I mean, you must sort of see people talking on the student room all the time just about, the search for jobs and things, but I know that we talked before about interns briefly.
Yeah.
Is this something that students are going to need to do to get that work experience, to take an unpaid perhaps internship, to get that necessary work experience before they can actually get into the into a career?
There's a lot of conversation around students coming out of university and being work ready. So universities are paying a lot of emphasis to making sure that content embedding into degree courses, for example, doesn't just focus on the academic side, but also focuses on providing access to experiences along the journey of qualifying for a degree that give you that work readiness to come into the workplace. So there is a lot of conversation generally amongst students and amongst the education sector around ensuring that people are more work ready coming out into the workplace. And I think there's a responsibility on employers, and I'm learning along the way here as well. But I think to roles that I've recruited for, even in the last 12 to 18 months, where I've laid out the job description, and then you always try not to, but you start thinking about the level of experience that you're looking for bringing somebody into a role. And I think the realities are that there's a real opportunity here to tip it upside down and to give people coming out of university a chance in meatier roles than they would ordinarily be given a chance in. Maybe they don't necessarily need the work experience coming into a role, but perhaps employers need to do more to put better guidelines around how they guide people through a role. So there's a lot of conversation amongst the student community around work readiness. So yes, in answer to your question, I think there is an opportunity for modern day internships that do more than internship schemes do today, where you give access to meatier projects with more guidance on. So you're helping people coming into the workplace from a work readiness perspective, but you're then getting the benefit of that student's personal insight based on their personal experiences around technology, social media, communication, because the marketing world is changing. Marketing rules that applied 10 years ago largely don't exist today. So if you're still marketing in the same way that you were 10 years ago, you may well have some challenges. The way in which people want to be communicated to has changed. And I think people that are coming out of university are well tuned into how they want to be communicated with. And if you can extract that knowledge from students, there's something really powerful about that. But you can't just leave people to come in and do it. You need to give them the framework. But I think there's a modern day internship model out there somewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, I know we had some students in the room here. Is there any one of those students who would be willing to just have a quick talk about, just say a few words about their own experiences, and whether they're looking for internships or, whether they're skilling themselves up to work in social media? Anyone put up the hand? It's good experience. Do we have the
Yes,
microphone?
we have one there.
Yeah. Do we have the microphone, please? It's there. Thank you. Could you just say who you are, please?
Yeah, I'm Alice. I'm actually on a one-year work placement.
Cool.
I come from Bournemouth University, so this is my third year, and I work for a global travel management network in the corporate sector called GSM. So there are jobs out there, and it is a paid year's work placement. That's part of what the university requests you to have. It's part of the requirement, so it's for a full year. But I've had to take unpaid work placements like leading up to that through summer holidays and things, but it's really enriching my degree, and I think getting that experience coming out with a good degree as well as a year's experience will put you above all of the other graduates who are going to be coming out with a 2-1 or a first.
And have you a particular interest in social media? I mean,
Yeah.
presumably you're here today for that, but
Definitely.
and have you tried to gain some additional skills beyond what you've done through that, just to try and make yourself ready for the workforce?
Yeah, I think that was part of the reason why I was hired with GSN. They didn't have a social media strategy, and I've come in and completely redone that, created a blog and integrated it all into a global summit that we've just had. I've been at the company 3 months now and completely trying to overhaul their social media, but they've seen it, like you were saying. It's so valuable to have someone come in who's got those ideas, because they were pretty much working in the past with their social media and just using standard marketing campaigns, but now hopefully it's getting there.
And did you have your own blog before you did that?
Yes, I did.
And do you think that's something that all students who want to get into it should be doing?
Oh, completely. I think everyone has to have one.
And what about the panel? Thank you there, Alice, by the way. Thank you. Do you think blogging as a student is something important that you should be doing, just to learn how to use content management tools, and also about the creative process?
Well, the more social activities, the better. But I must say that I am a poor user of social media myself. I'm more of a number-oriented campaign management strategy person. I've never had a blog, and I don't know how many people actually do, but if you actually do have the blog, for as an example, it adds a lot of value, because that's yet another step further, and you're embracing social media even further than everybody else. So absolutely, this is a great thing, as long as you have something to blog about.
Yeah.
And do you think that you need to sort of filter your social networks before you start looking for a job, just in case there's the embarrassing picture on Facebook?
Absolutely. I mean, first, privacy settings. Do not allow people to tag you unless you approve it on Facebook. Very important thing. But I do not work in recruitment, so I can't really tell. But I imagine if I was a recruiter, especially for online related jobs, first thing is LinkedIn. Second thing, checking if there is anything on Facebook. So it's you have to be smart about what you're making public.
Have you got any thoughts on that, Jason, as well? Everyone's going to be searching through your Twitter feed now. I remember seeing you doing Strictly Ballroom, actually, a couple of years ago, and I can remember that picture of you in that skin-tight outfit.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. How was that?
Looked good. I think you won, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I've got a bit of an opposing view, and it's probably a minority view, and it's probably not that sensible. But yes, use the privacy settings, but Facebook is Facebook, right? I mean, you've got to be able to live. If a potential employer is snooping through your Facebook and looking at photos, then they're probably not worth working for. It's a personal view. So yeah, I think you have to be mindful. But I think there are a lot of open-minded people out there that perhaps don't use Facebook to vet candidates before they employ them. It's just a personal view.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot and embarrassing you there.
No,
But do we have any other questions from the audience? I'm sure there's some students in there and also some travel companies who might want to work with interns. Does anyone have anything they want to ask?
Hello. My name is Yuri. I'm now working for a social media management company, and we basically deal with outsourcing. So if you have a company and if you don't want to invest too much money into hiring an in-house person, then you can hire somebody else. But my question is regarding this old school versus new school thing, which you mentioned, because with quite many, or during quite many business meetings, I've had this point where, like, these older CEOs, after explaining everything, then there's still like no change in the expression.
Yeah.
It's like this, and taking into account what you have just said, because the market is changing and the present day marketing is more online orientated. How to get through to them?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. One of the big challenges is taking that message and getting boardroom approval if that opinion isn't shared around the boardroom table. I completely agree. One of the things that I would suggest perhaps using as a tactic is to try and get that board into the shoes of a consumer for a second, and to look at things from a consumer perspective, and to think about the language and tone of marketing that's around them. The language has changed. People's filters have changed. People won't accept old school marketing messages. They want to be talked to like real people. People are now talking in tweets. Facebook is now all around. We've got is it 1 billion people now on Facebook. So there aren't that many people that aren't on Facebook. So social media has changed the way in which people's expectations around how communication around them should work. So somehow getting those people into the shoes of consumer to actually see it that way, and then to test it. It's an entrepreneurial way of doing things, but actually find ways in which you can incubate new ways of doing things within your organization, where you can test it and you can get feedback, and then you can use that feedback with the board to be able to point to success by using new techniques, and also find good reading, because you can end up, there's an opportunity here for people to look like rock stars within organisations where perhaps they're not getting the buy-in, but maybe it's crawl, walk, run in an organisation that perhaps hasn't embraced the new way of doing things. I think a lot have, but start small, prove the concept, and then build out from there would be my personal view. But
yeah, agree.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And sorry we don't have any more time for any more questions. I just wanted to thank Jason and Joanna for their insights there, and hope you've enjoyed that. So give them a big round of applause, please.